Hoonigan just announced it's filed for bankruptcy, Chapter 11, and that they have more than $1.7 billion in debt? How the f did that happen? Tune in as I tell you the secrets behind this disaster and what really happened at Hoonigan and its private equity partner today on the Patina Collective. Here's an idea. Let's take an amazing racing brand founded by a world-class, probably the greatest of all time, rally racer in history, Ken Block, and shove 45 companies underneath it and layer on $1.7 billion of debt. What's the worst thing that could happen? Well, we're seeing it right now. Hoonigan has just announced its file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy with $1.75 billion of debt in the books. They hope to erase about $1.2 billion of that through their Chapter 11 process they just announced. Now, guys, it's a lot to untangle here, but I'll try to make it as simple as possible. Basically, Hoonigan was bought out by private equity just a couple years ago. Hoonigan was founded more than a decade ago by world-class rally racer Ken Block. He's perhaps one of the greatest to ever do it. And they started making amazing videos on YouTube and putting different content out there. And the brand began to grow and grow and grow as a media brand. The first video on Hoonigan to do over 1 million views was actually Ken Block racing a car that was catching fire. That's crazy. From there, Hoonigan gained nearly 5 million followers and kept creating amazing content, putting on events, and then partnering with other companies to offer things like tires, wheels, suspension systems, etc. Things that really fit with who they were as a brand and enmeshed really well with the audience that was following them. So you guys might see tons of people out there with Hoonigan stickers on their cars, people that have accessory parts from the company, and just overall have been influenced by the brand and their creativity. Now keep in mind the founder, Ken Block, was no stranger to selling companies. He actually had been one of the original founders of DC Shoes before they sold to Quicksilver in 2004. So working with private equity and selling companies was something that was kind of in his heritage, he had done before, and he'd hoped it would turn out pretty well. Now this media company in Hoonigan, they didn't make a lot of products out there. They made some apparel, they had appearances, they made some car parts and did a lot of partnerships, but never really manufactured their own products. Now, me personally, I was never big into the Hoonigan brand. It didn't really resonate with me and the style and what I like. But I know for a lot of people out there, it was one of the first big brands they got into in the automotive world, and it really has a strong connection with them. So it's sad to see what happened after their purchase in 2021. Now, after 2021, Clear Lake Capital had all of these other brands, these car brands that had things like tires, had things like wheels, accessory car parts, etc. That's a very low profit, low margin business for them. They basically went and bought up a bunch of different assets, put them into a company, and then used that company to buy Hoonigan. So in doing so, they thought they could take the Hoonigan brand, put all these other parts and, Rotiform and Dub and all these other wheel companies underneath it, put Hoonigan on top of it, and use Hoonigan to increase the value of those brands and also help co-market them on the Hoonigan Media Network. So what we saw, guys, is that you can't just make magic like that happen overnight. In 2 years, or 3 years really, very, very quickly, the company's now been riddled with debt, has spent a lot of money on media, a lot of money on consolidating their assets in the back end, and have still not pulled it off and has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. But let's talk about Clear Lake Partners and why they might not have been the right partner for Hoonigan in this instance. Now, if you go to the Clear Lake Partners private equity website, they actually tell you about the different areas they invest in. They invest in food manufacturing and food products, and they invest in industrial products, and they also invest in technology and software. But what's important to realize, nowhere on the website do they say they invest in media. And that's who Hoonigan was at the end of the day. They were a media company who had great partnerships and great designs and great insights, and there was an opportunity here for a private equity company to come and kind of jack some of the swag, right? Buy the brand and now shove other brands underneath it. They really weren't as popular. But what happens when you have a soup and you start adding more ingredients to it, you lose the flavor. And that's what happened here. Hoonigan started not resonating with viewers the same way it did before. That's evident because in their last, I think, 9 months, only one video broke 1 million views. And in order to do it, they had to destroy, I think, 2 or 3 cars and nearly killed a driver. I guess when you're down $1.7 billion in debt, anything for the views, right? Oh, and let's not forget about the millions of dollars spent on promotions and making crazy videos and doing in-person events that cost Hoonigan a lot of money during this time. If you guys were ever at events like SEMA or other places, they almost had an open checkbook to go and promote the brand, when in reality, they were trying to say their media company was the powerhouse, but they were loading in all this debt behind it on the manufacturing side. So who's to blame and what went wrong? Now guys, from my experience, the world's a brutal place, and the world of finance is even more brutal. Investors expect win after win after win, and no one likes to lose money on an investment. So the ownership here, the private equity, probably had the right idea, saying what can we do different with all these assets that are, relatively low margin and tough to win on. Let's go ahead and revive them and bring them to light using Hoonigan. But it doesn't always work like that. If you're an investor, it might make sense. But if you're someone that operates a brand, what does a brand like Dub and a brand like Rotiform have in common, aside from the fact they're both wheels? They're totally different audiences, totally different applications. And then you layer in there things like American racing, and it goes on and on. Like I said, 45 different brands. There was no more brand touch, no more authenticity that really resonated with anyone. And when your brands feel like they don't have any real connection, they lose value. There's not a whole lot you can do about it when you lose what the heart of a brand is. So Hoonigan was swimming upstream in this environment. It's really challenging to work with this much debt loaded on. And I would say the private equity here probably had a good idea, but just didn't have the execution in mind, didn't really understand completely what they were getting into, and thought they could revive really what was a pretty miserable business to begin with, which is a low margin, kind of compiled businesses of car parts, and then juice it up with Hoonigan. Just didn't work out. So sadly, Ken Block did pass away in 2023. And it was a real hit for the team at Hoonigan, I know that. And it was also sad for all the fans out there that loved his content and loved him as a person and really saw him as an aspirational character in the world of motorsports. Guys, really at the end of the day, it is private equity to blame, but sometimes deals go wrong. So what's the good news in this? The good news is the Hoonigan brand will live on in some capacity in the future. Now in a Chapter 11, not all assets go automatically to auction. You basically try to take care of your debt holders and pay off the banks. And the banks need to be paid because Clear Lake Partners wants to do business in the future with these banks to take out more money to buy more assets in the future. So the banks will be paid, and I think right now even some of the banks are in control of this Chapter 11 process. So they'll be coming out of this Chapter 11 process either as Hoonigan or a different brand, but the brand will continue to live on. And then what happens after that? Another Chapter 11 in a few years, a Chapter 7, but hopefully they can turn the corner and be a successful brand once again. I personally hope that Hoonigan goes back to just being a media company and offer collaborations to create value with their viewers. And I hope they find a way to tap into Ken Block's family, his friends, that original audience, and make an authentic connection to viewers out there. Because the viewers of Hoonigan who got them to this point deserve better than this. Private equity does have a role to play when it comes to a company's growth. They're the right partner in a private equity company that cares about the legacy business. But to see someone just take a brand and just throw things at it and layer things in because it looked good in a spreadsheet is really tragic and not the right way to do business. So guys, thank you so much for watching the video today. If you have your thoughts about Hoonigan and what private equity did to them, please leave it in the comments below. We are the Patina Collective, the world's largest Mercedes-Benz collection. Our museum is now open in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Please come and see us and like and follow us for more great content just like this one, and even share it with your friends. Thanks so much, guys. Peace out.
Thank you.